Good afternoon, Michael Malice here. Let that be your welcome for the next hour. We have with us a very special guest, Dr. Mike Israetel. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Did I pronounce it correctly?
Well, so I'll give you the long version. The pronunciation in English is kind of arbitrary. It's a Russian name. It's not even so Russian. So in Russia we say Israetel, but since
Israetel. Okay.
Israetel, yeah,
Israetel.
since most Americans won't pronounce that, I don't expect them to. Israetel is fine. It kind of misses like some of the phonetic stuff, but it's way better mimetically than like Israetel or something, which would be stupid. So
Do you
whatever. I really
do
just
you
don't
still
care.
speak Russian?
Yeah, like
Oh,
at the
so
level of a not so intelligent 7-year-old because I was 7 when
uh,
I left and I'm out of
grandma
practice.
says I speak like uh, someone with Down syndrome.
Yeah, but like someone with Down syndrome that like can hold down a job at like a Walmart or something, like
Someone with
he's
Down syndrome
nice.
can hold down a job with Walmart. Like they could do a lot. Have you not seen those McDonald's commercials when we were kids? Remember?
So I actually made it very
Or vice
specific.
president?
I just don't think your Russian is at the level of like McDonald's. I think it's Walmart level is what I'm trying to say.
Mike is co-founder of RPStrength. You guys are one of the biggest outlets in terms of providing useful information in terms of fitness and health and all the other stuff. And I just think it's great the kind of work you do. I want to give you, I have this nice little fawning introduction, which I'm going to give to you. That's something I want to talk to you about. Are you familiar with George Lehman?
George Lehman's the powerlifter?
Yes.
Yes, a man who likes to go to the Southeast Asian countries and collect trophies.
Well, that's one way of looking at it. So George Lehman, people don't know, and they shouldn't necessarily know. He pulled like over 1,000 pounds at a young age. So he's like an amazing power lifter. He made one of the most profound videos I've ever seen. And the video talks about how, and when I saw this, he was talking about specifically powerlifting, but it applies to literally every field. He goes, okay, the people at the top don't carry themselves with an attitude because they know they have nothing to prove. It's the guy who's like the strongest guy at his gym who's going to have a chip at his shoulder and be all macho and be tough to deal with. But he's like, what can I do? He's like, I can lift heavy weights. Great. It's a sport. I like it. What utility is that? He's like, I can kill you, but I won't. Like, I'm not like a mom raising kids in a great way. I'm not like a fireman putting out fire. Who cares? And why it was so interesting to me is I did a lot of work with UFC guys, and the people at the top, they always, someone at the bar comes up to them, I bet I can kick your ass. Their answer is, you're probably right.
Yeah.
Because the people who are like at the top aren't quote unquote macho. They're very like secure in themselves and self-actualized. So why I say this, it was so fun meeting you through our friend Ethan Suplee. And for people who are wondering, you're just like you are in real life as you are on YouTube and other venues. And what's really great to me is when people are at your level and they don't have this attitude. It's just like, here's the thing that's great about fitness is you could give me all the perfect information I want. I still have to do the work. There's nothing you can do that will help me other than go to the gym, eat right, and do the work. And if I do it, great for me. If I don't, you don't care. But like, you've given me the info and, go nuts and live your best self.
Thank you so much. That's overly kind introduction. I actually have a massive chip on my shoulder. I resent everything, including mostly myself. How's that?
I don't think that's true.
I'm
So
also bad at lying then. Another terrible thing about me.
here's, I think, a thing that a lot of people have, because we're dropping this on the first night of Hanukkah and Christmas. I think a lot of people are very averse to kind of making that commitment, join the gym. They think they're going to go to the gym, everyone's going to be staring at them. Every overweight person, all the fit people are cheering them on. They're not laughing at them. They're like, good for you. They're their biggest fans. Okay, what would you, I'm sure you get this question all the time, but New Year's resolutions, what would you tell people? Why should this be their year to try to get into shape?
I just say don't. Like you've failed so many times. Just give up. Just in general on everything. Stop paying child support. So
Wait, can I tell you something?
sure.
You just referenced the funniest bit I've ever done on Fox. We were doing a segment on Red Eye, which was the 3 a.m.
I'm
talk
so
show.
jealous that you, first of all, got to be on Red Eye, and second of all, got to meet Greg Gutfeld. Actually, Greg Gutfeld is somebody who I've like subconsciously extracted a lot of my comedic delivery from. I think he's brilliant, and everything he says is the most funny thing I've ever heard in my entire life.
So
But
we're
please go.
close. He's like an older brother to me.
Oh my god.
I also got to be the last Andy. I was the last guest omnibudsman, and I was in the
Oh
last
my
episode that's never
god.
aired. Yes, but here's the amazing. So we had a segment. They would have some article. We have to discuss it. And the article was about how to succeed by giving up. Give up on this idea that you have to be a perfect dad.
Mhm.
Give up on this idea that you have to be a millionaire by this age. Give up on this idea, and all these things that people have from external sources that are often crippling. And I said, this really hits close to home. I had a friend, and I sat down with him, and I go, you have to give up on always having to be the funniest guy in the room. You have to give up on always having to be on. You have to give up on this idea that you have to make a movie every year. And that friend listened to my advice. He gave up on all those things and even more. And that man's name was Robin Williams. And there was this long pause, and then everyone's like, "Oh God."
Well, I suppose like when you deliver the advice was salient. Like if it was in the 1960s, you're like, oh, he had a great career. If it was like just before he went out, you're like, oh my God, you really got to him, I guess. Yeah. I mean, so I could try to answer your question more realistically.
That was my finest hour, by the way.
I love it, man. That's great. But anytime I get to make a joke and there's a nice solid pause, it's
Yes.
like my prime moment because I'm like, you're gonna have to work in your brain to get to this, but when you do,
Yes.
it'll be worth it. Or you'll just be like, Jesus Christ, what the hell is wrong with you?
Oh, they said
Sorry.
Andy said that to me in Red Eye, because for people who don't remember Red Eye, at the halfway through the show, Andy, who was the omnibudsman, would be just like me and Mike. He would go through everything you said wrong, and I argued
Yes,
him
it
once,
was
and he goes
so
to me,
great.
"What's wrong with you?" And on cue, I go, "I have fetal alcohol syndrome," and he just shook his head and moved on.
See, now he's like a bad guy for bringing up the fact that you have fetal alcohol syndrome. So I mean, actually, that my advice is sort of mirroring the joke, and it's there's fields and fields of people every New Year's season decide they're going to radically change their lives. And many of them succeed, far many more of them fail. They fail for a variety of reasons, but at least one of the reasons that many people fail is because the amount of change they're trying to make in their lives
Yeah.
has to be shoved into a bandwidth that is quite small. And the shoving isn't really a matter. I wish it was a matter of, well, if I try to get better at 10 things or I try to lose 20 pounds and I try my best, but the bandwidth is small, I'll get better at 2 things or I'll lose 4 pounds and that's better than nothing. But in reality, what ends up happening is kind of similar to trying to put a lot of traffic through an intersection that's not designed for it.
Yeah.
You actually just get a traffic jam. And in many cases, you end up just overwhelming yourself and just giving up. And part of that is because you're trying to do so much that the psychological overwhelm, the practical overwhelm, the scheduling overwhelm of getting to be your new fit person is just a ton. And so what I usually tell people around New Year's resolution time is, let's take all this New Year's resolution spirit, the rah shit, and just let like the waves of the mind calm down until it's a flat, calm sea. Fuck New Year's resolution. Am I allowed to swear?
Yes, of course. Only racial slurs, though.
So, oh my God, the first 2 words that came to me were bad terms for Black people, and actually the first one was bad terms for Jewish people, which I can't say, unfortunately. As
Don't
they'll
worry,
just
it'll be in the comments.
Excellent. Yeah, throw them in the comments. Whatever, however offensive you think you are, I promise you're a fraction of what I got into my head. But so. The funniest racial jokes aren't like, oh, just say a bad word. It is to fantasize about the incredibly in-depth, incredibly pre-prepared procedural mass execution of entire swaths of humanity in finely grained detail. That to me is hilarious.
Well, you want to hear what's the difference between what's Leah Thomas and Hitler?
Hit me.
Leah Thomas knows how to finish a race.
Hitler had a lot of promises. Where are you at, baby? Where's that Fourth Reich hat, big homie?
Typical politician.
Amazing, right? Talked a lot, got a lot of shit fucked up, killed a lot of German people. In any case, so my thing is this: if you want to exhibit some success, don't put a ton of pressure on yourself. There's nothing magical about the New Year's resolution time. I mean, in quite the literal sense, there's nothing special about January 1st. You have been flubbing your fitness your whole life, so have I, and you have been false starting your whole life, so have I, and there's now is not a particularly better or worse time. I mean, there's something to be said for like starting a fitness resolution just before Thanksgiving. We have so many special occasions and fun foods, like it's just like operationally not a good idea. But there's not much to do in January and February and March and short of diet and train because like it's shitty outside. But then again, like if you live in Texas or you live in LA, you live in Miami, like it's always nice. So that fucking goes out the window. And so at the end of the day, you want to pick goals that are meaningful to you and that are there's not a lot of people saying this. I really like that I'm trying to say this and hopefully it resonates with people, but goals that when you look at they're not so easy and absurd that you're like, this is not even a challenge to me. This is ridiculous. Get this out of my face. But goals that are far below your threshold of achievement. Like if I told you, man, like if we can just put 2.5 pounds of weight on the bar for you every few weeks, wouldn't that be great? You'd be like, I can put 5 pounds on the bar. Like, okay, so cool. Here's your job. Shut the fuck up
Right. Yeah.
and
Yep.
just put 2.5 pounds on the bar. Because months and months later, you're going to accomplish great things, and you're never going to try to put 5 or 10 pounds on the bar, get really upset that you couldn't do it, burn out, and go out the other way. So New Year's resolution have this kind of spirit baked into them in our culture of like choose grand goals, grand ambitions. There's a lot of other like really well intentioned stuff from the cultural milieu that hits like, dream big. Like I'm that motherfucker to tell you, stop dreaming big. Stop.
Yes.
Don't dream
Oh my
big.
God, Mike, can I say something? This is so funny
Please.
because when I give advice to kids, I say to them, if you want to be an author, like when I first wanted to be an author, I read this book by Dennis Johnson called Jesus' Son, and it's so well written. I didn't realize he had been a poet previously that I'm like, I can never do this. And then I thought, well, I don't have to. He did it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't need to
Yeah.
be Dennis Johnson. Not everyone working out has to be Arnold Schwarzenegger, Ronnie Coleman. And
No.
I say to people who want to be an author, go to the bookstore, look at all the shitty books. That could be you. You could be that terrible author that their friends are like, "How'd this guy get a book deal?" And I'm dead.
Like,
When you
oh, you
put it
wrote a
into
book.
terms like that,
Cool.
and then also, what's that?
Oh, you wrote a
I
book.
didn't hear what you
That's
said. Sorry.
cool. Like,
Yeah, yeah, but
your
right.
friends giving you
And
shit
the other
feedback.
thing is, in terms of writing, instead of telling yourself, "I got to do 10 pages a day," one page. It's a marathon, not a sprint, right? I do 1 or 2 pages a day. I have a book in a year. And
Yeah.
when you have things that are manageable and bite size, all of a sudden, anything that relies on willpower, you're going to fail. Willpower is a very finite resource. But if it's
Yes.
something where you can just make it a good, light habit, like flushing the toilet,
Yes.
then you can stick to it for the rest of your life.
Yes. Yes. So when you're choosing your fitness goals, choose a diet that's sustainable, that has a couple BS meals per week in it, but that's mostly healthy food. Make sure to get some physical activity in that's just very, very easily doable, and hit the gym. Like, try to hit the gym 2 or 3 times a week, man, even just two. Go for like, 30 minutes to an hour each time if you're just out of the gym completely. And if you're in the gym like 2 or 3 times a week, usually, and you want to bump it up, go to 3 or 4. Don't just do these Napoleonic things, because Napoleonic things, including Napoleon's quest, fail more often than they succeed. And there is a cool bit of like, it's very inspirational to see people who shot for the moon and succeeded. And our culture and society understandably surfaces those sorts of narratives. That's what movies are about. But like, guess what, motherfucker? They ain't making a Netflix movie about your bitch ass losing 15 pounds in these next 3 months. And I don't know what you would have to do for you to get a Netflix documentary about you, or like what you're going to do for New Year's resolution. So leave all that shit aside and just go for the practical thing of setting goals that are very, very attainable. And that afterwards, people could ask you, like, oh my God, you lost 15 pounds. Like, was it tough? You'd be like, I honestly can't say it was. I think I just like started doing these habits and I did them pretty well. And then the weight just kind of comes off. And what you won't get from that sort of situation is this incredible deep feeling that you triumphed against adversity. Like, you don't get to come back to your village and everyone's like huddled around you, and then you take the demon head out of your bag and you're like, roar, and everyone's like, oh my God, he did it. And the women just instantly derobe themselves and prostrate themselves in front of you. This is not going to happen. But what's going to happen is you're going to very subtly and sublimely look back and be like, holy shit, I fucking did the thing. And I accomplished the goal that I wanted. And if you can do that sequentially over time, especially every New Year's resolution, you're just going to be that person who's like that guy at work who's like kind of seemingly got it all together. Like, he has a nice car, he has a nice wife or girlfriend, he's got a great
Yeah.
body. And you're like, what's the secret? And you hang out with him and try to talk. You try to get some inspirational bullshit out of him. Like, how much of a struggle is it? How many Andrew Tate quotes do I need to get through this? Like, how many ice baths for my nuts do I need? Which is all good and well every now and again when you really need, like, some mornings, you wake up and you just don't have any motivation. So you got to scroll through some Andrew Tate quotes like sell that pussy or beat that bitch, whatever the fuck. And then you're like, hell yeah, fuck these hoes. And you go out and do your thing. But the average general je ne sais quoi should be like just calm procedural execution of something that you find challenging, yet not super unpleasant. That's how sustainable action happens. Like, Elon Musk accomplishes all his wonderful things that he does by just going to work every day and doing a good job and then traveling their country and working at his companies. There's not like one moment in one year where he was like, this particular February, I worked for 36 hours straight.
Right.
And that's when we built all of Grok at the same time. Like, that's just not a thing that happens very often. And we over focus on when people do these things because it's glorious. But glory has a very high probability of risk and a big downside. And so you just, in our modern comfortable world, you don't need to risk glory for shit. Just do the normal, easy things that you can do. breathe in, breathe out, relax, and let the nervousness of the impending January 1st beginning of this race. Like, everyone's kind of a rat race. Everyone's running to the gym and people fall and they get trampled on and all this shit. And I'm going to be fit. And it's just really not that big of a deal. And you can accomplish amazing things if just calmly over time you're accomplishing relatively unimpressive goals.
Folks, the holiday season is here, and a great gift is something that people can enjoy every single day of the year and think about you. And that's where Miracle Made sheets come in. Your nighttime bedroom temperature has a huge impact on your sleep quality. If you wake up too hot or too cold, I highly recommend you check out Miracle Made's bed sheets. Miracle Made sheets are inspired by NASA. They use silver-infused fabrics that are temperature regulating, so you can sleep at the perfect temperature all night long. Miracle sheets are luxuriously comfortable without the high price tag of other luxury brands. They feel as nice, if not nicer, than sheets used by some 5-star hotels. Stop sleeping on bacteria, which can clog your pores and causes breakouts and acne. Sleep clean with Miracle. Here's all you have to do. Go to trymiracle.com/malice to try Miracle Made sheets today. And whether you're buying them for yourself or as a gift for a loved one or even a hated one, if you order today, you can save over 40%. If you use our promo code MALICE at checkout, you get 3 free towels and save an extra 20%. Here's the kicker. Miracle is so confident in their product, it's backed with a 30-day money-back guarantee. If you aren't 100% satisfied, full refund. Upgrade your sleep with Miracle Made. Go to trymiracle.com/malice. Use code MALICE. Get your 3-piece towel set for free. Save over 40% off. Again, that's trymiracle.com/malice to treat yourself. Thank you, Miracle Made, for sponsoring this episode. Let's get back to the show. 2 things. First of all, people who think they can't be fit, well, you can definitely be fitter. So when you put it in those terms right away, even if you can't go from 300 to 120, you can certainly go to 240, right? So right away, it becomes manageable. Like, wait, I could do this. I'll tell you a funny story. And also, Elon has some days where he does shit work. And I'm sure you and I, obviously at your level, you've had some days where you had a shit lift. Like today just sucked at the gym. And that's fine. That's accounted into the whole thing. Just like every time you go to your favorite restaurant, sometimes they're going to miss with the meal. It's okay.
Do they hate me now? Are they trying to poison me? Is it because I'm Jewish? All the thoughts that run through my head. Do I
We're the
become a
poisoners.
chef physically?
We're the poisoners. They're not poisoning you.
Why? People pick our bullshit up. You feel me? You can't just keep doing your shit without some fucking copycats up in this motherfucker, man.
By the way, in honor of our heritage, 2 days ago, I went with my friend Warren to Sugared and Bronzed here in Austin, and they squirted beet juice all over me. So I hope I have a nice, healthy glow.
Wait, what the fuck is Sugar and Bronze, and why are they squirting beet juices at you?
It's a tanning salon. They have like some beet-based dye.
Oh.
Yeah, I got my beating.
That's excellent. And you were burned, maybe. Or no, you didn't get under the lamps.
No, I didn't get under the lamps. But something that's fun that you said, because you said sticking to a diet. Do you know who James Damore is? He's the guy who got fired from Google.
Yes.
Because he had a dossier or document about like why it's possible for non-sexist reasons that men and women go into STEM at different rates.
Yes, it's uncontroversial in the technical literature completely. But
yeah, I was backstage with him here. He came in and he mentioned, he said whatever diet. I go, no. Men have a regimen, women have a diet. It has the word men in it. And he's very high on the spectrum, as is probably pretty much everyone you and I know. And he busts out his phone and he's like, these 2 words, and he could not understand, A, that I'm half joking, but B, like the kind of poetic differences in nuance between different words. And I'm trying to explain to him, and of course his affect is nil. And my 2 other friends who were backstage were just peeing their pants as I'm trying to explain to this robot why I always say you should have a regimen and not a diet. I'm
also, regimen is like, to me, it brings like Roman era vibes, which is like the ultimate time that, like, in the Roman conquest era, that's when manhood peaked. Like if you could only transplant cigars and top hats to the Romans, they would be the perfect male role models. Ruthless, brutal, organized, self-hating, the whole fucking thing.
But when I hear diet, I hear something that's doomed to fail, and it's something that's going to be quirky. Like, I'm only going to eat lettuce on Tuesdays, or like, only eat till 4:00. It seems like such a weird, bizarre construct as opposed to an approach to how you consume calories.
Yeah, I mean, like, so from the technical perspective, in the exercise science and nutrition literature, was a diet is a what you eat. Because like animals have a diet.
Yes.
Like every kind of human has a diet. And so we say I need to be on a diet. That's already a colloquial misunderstanding of the term. Is I need to restructure my diet so that it looks different. I need to have a different kind of diet. And to your point, a diet that you kind of stochastically remake every meal that you eat is a bad idea, which is why a regimen is really good, because a regimen is good for all the Roman era vibes of like, I'm a man and I'm a stoic and I do things by process because I'm a machine. Like, I love all those vibes. I think it's great. But also it's great because it ultra simplifies the objective.
Yes,
If you have like dependable meals and go-tos, you use the RP Diet Coach app or whatever bullshit, Macro Factor, one of those awesome apps, or no app at all. It's just like you just like know what you're going to be doing, and then it's not rocket science. And if someone's like, hey, like how's your diet been, you can like objectively say like, I've been following it, versus being like, oh, because like you ask people how they've been dieting, and if they're not tracking or organizing their diet according to regimen, they're like, oh, I feel like it's pretty good, but like they step on the scale, they've gained 3 pounds, but like I eat at Whole Foods, except I just like drink the mayonnaise out of the mayonnaise dispenser. Apparently, like at Whole Foods, that still means I'm going to get fat. And so yeah, regimen is a great tool, but a regimen that is nice and flexible, or not even flexible, it can be quite rigid, but it's not rigid in a way that like is really, really hampering your ability to follow. It's like, for example, if I tell you, listen, your budget for entertaining yourself this year, we're going to give you money, is $1 million. Okay, no more. If you spend any more money, you're in debt. Okay. That's very constrained. It's very regimental, but it's also incredibly liberal in the sense like, how the fuck are you going to spend $1 million to entertain yourself? No, I know you've been to Epstein's Island. Don't even start with the bullshit. I know you have ways to
I
spend it.
read it.
But I am Epstein's Island.
He's the fall guy, you fool.
Why do you think he's dead? Because your boy was in the prison cell next to him. Epstein, it's time to cash out, my friend. He's like, oh, no problem, sir. So yeah, you just walk out Kaiser Soze style afterwards, like Michael Malice, the real man behind the bullshit.
My lip
But
goes away. Yeah.
yeah, that's it. But it's one of those things where if your diet isn't psychotic and insanely constraining, but it keeps you to a nice caloric deficit, focusing mostly on healthy foods, you could be eating these meals and you're like, man, like I can't even finish my salmon today. Like this is great. I'm still losing weight. I'm not even super hungry. And all of a sudden you're doing really well for yourself.
I hope this doesn't trigger you, but I am doing lean gains, and this is part of my regimen.
What the fuck is that? It looks
Chocolate
like a
covered
little
cherries.
chocolate covered. That's gross, man. I hate
I
cherries.
love it.
On pure autistic food vibes, I just hate cherries. I can't stand them. And so you just ruined my day. It just did piss me off. Your prediction was accurate.
I'm at the point where it's hard for me to get the calories in, so I'm literally eating Cane's fried chicken every day because I'm at what am I 3119. I'll tell you exactly what my calories are. Where is this? I'm
If
at
your calories are
3159 every
okay,
day.
31 to 59. Wow. If you've calories approximated to the integer value is quite impressive, I will say.
Well, so yeah, so
Don't
it's
go to
hard for me.
60 because holy shit, you could die.
No, but it's hard for me to get that much that much calories in, especially clean. I don't think I could do it. Like I think that's understood to be one of the most difficult things about bodybuilding is that they have to force all that food in.
It's like it depends on who you're talking to. For many
Sure.
people, that's absolutely the case. Definitely. For some other people, like they're just hungry all the time and their job is to stay the fuck away from cheap foods to go way over calories. Like I just
Right.
generally don't have an appetite problem. My appetite's quite good, and so I can eat all the clean food I want. But for me, so I have the opposite problem of you. Like when I'm dieting, I prefer to be on like Ozempic and shit like that because fuck all that hunger nonsense. It drives me insane. But
Oh,
you gotta
I would love to since I'm not anytime I say something positive, it sounds like sarcasm, but this is not sarcasm. Since you're so like knee deep in the literature, I would love to hear your thoughts on Ozempic because it seems to me something like that can't possibly not have long-term negative consequences.
well, yeah. So how cynical can I be back to you?
This is the Michael Malice show, so very.
Very cynicism preferred. Um, I would say that you're exhibiting a form of wildly irrational pessimism and cynicism
Sure.
towards drugs. I would say my parents do the same thing, and they're Russian and about your age. I'm kidding.
Wait, it's not towards drugs, it's towards this idea of a free lunch. That's not the same.
No
I'm
free
not being
lunch, my friend. No free
yeah.
lunch. Don't worry. There's no free lunch. The pharmaceutical industry had to spend billions of dollars and 20 years of development to make this. So the lunch has been paid for. And so now that we're understanding bodies better, understanding our biologies better, and you're willing to pay the downside risk of potential, usually mild, but sometimes pretty intense consequences of misusing the drug or mistitrating it, misdosing it, not fixing your diet the right way that you're supposed to be. For a large fraction of people, it's probably better for most overweight people to be on drugs like Ozempic than not on drugs like
Oh,
Ozempic.
wow. Okay.
And that includes long term. Because long term, Ozempic by no mechanism is bad for you, and is by many mechanisms very good for you. But here's the thing: like, if you have somebody who's very lean, very fit, totally by themselves, and you ask, like, should that person take Ozempic? Look, it's a very different conversation because there's no upside really for them. There are a few upsides on insulin dynamics, but they seemingly have that already sorted, so they're good. But the downsides are like, oh, like like it potentially can irritate some organ systems sometimes, and it can make you vomity and give you gastroparesis and all this stuff. stuff and headaches and shit like that and fatigue. But when you're talking about comparing actual risks, the risks and long-term consequences of unchecked overweightness and
Of
obesity
course.
are like,
Yes.
first of all, massive, and second of all, incredibly well documented.
Yes.
And so
Yes. Yeah.
comparing like versus like when people are like, 300 pounds, they're like, oh, I don't want to take Ozempic because it's like, it's got like side effects. Like, motherfucker, you are a walking side effect. Are
Yeah.
you out of
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
fucking mind? Yeah. So
No,
it's
no, I
kind of my
agree. I'm
response
just
to that.
saying I feel like maybe it is irrational, but I'm talking about people who are marginally overweight when that's their like first go to. I think I would always prefer to have a healthier habit than to be relying on a drug. Maybe that is irrational, but that's just my thinking.
Well, I would say taking the drug is a healthier habit because the drug's really good for you. The other thing is, like you could say that about veggies. Like, I prefer not lean into veggie consumption. I'd prefer healthier habits. And people are like, isn't veggie consumption a healthier habit? Like, yes. So we actually have to zoom in on the drug and be like, is the taking the drug healthy? And in that case, when you're mildly overweight, is it better for you to take it than not? That doesn't mean it should be your first course of action. But I have a stronger argument to make. One of the things Ozempic does is it wildly reduces your appetite, and it wildly reduces how much food you're able to take in until you get so full that you can't keep eating. And so you have this constrained amount of food that you can eat now, which will cause weight loss. But
Yeah.
if you take this constrained amount of space in your stomach and you fill it with tons of junk food, not only can your calories still be high enough for you to not lose any weight, but also junk food is insanely difficult to digest with Ozempic and
Oh.
other related drugs. Oh yeah, so it'll stay in your stomach for longer. It'll irritate the fuck out of you. It'll give you heartburn. It'll give
Oh.
you
Wow.
potential for vomiting and diarrhea and all this crazy shit. So Ozempic is like an unbelievably empowering drug in the sense that you will have a better time with the drug in the experiential sense, and you will have better results with the drug if you concomitantly use the drug and start eating a healthy diet,
Yeah.
low in crazy amounts of fat and highly processed sugars and lots of veggies and fruits and whole grains and lean meats and all that other bullshit. It basically allows you to eat that kind of diet. Whereas before you were eating it, you're like, I'm fucking starving to death. I hate all this fucking stupid bullshit. I have all these food cravings. You do that diet on Ozempic and you're like, dude, this is as easy as breathing. Like, I can just do this forever. And then all the benefits come. So Ozempic and dieting is like, a huge winning combo, like jerking off and staring in the mirror at yourself. I mean, what more do you want to see?
It's funny you say that because when I was a kid, I had massive stomach issues, and they continued until I was an adult, and then they were resolved with probiotics. And as a result of this, I have a visceral aversion to fatty food because fatty food when I was a kid would trigger me and would really cause stomach discomfort. And now when I just look at like fatty food, like I would love to be someone who's into cheese because there's so many different types of cheese. It seems like such a fun journey to try like the hundreds of different kinds. And
Oh,
so
cheese is so good. Michael,
but
how
I look
dare
at it
you?
and it just makes me like viscerally
Well,
gag.
have you ever considered that cheese looks at you and fucking wants to viscerally gag?
I'm an underwear model. There's no way that cheese is gagging. It's gagging from pleasure.
Yeah, but you're Jewish, so it's kind of like, oh, they let these people in their underwear now? What the fuck? Hitler really fucked up.
We have the magic underwear. I had to wear it to yeshiva.
Damn, dude, you got a way better Judaism look than I did. I just got yelled at a lot.
There's something else I want to talk to you about, which is just really fascinating to me in terms of like blue pilling and red pilling people. Like I talked about this a bit on Rogan. Like back in the like 1960s, if you told housewives that Liberace was gay, they would yell at you because like, have you ever seen him going down a guy that you don't know, right?
Well,
Literally,
I have, but
but literally everyone in bodybuilding is on gear. It's not even remotely possible to get to competitive bodybuilding to not be on gear. Yet
at the
there's
pro
this
at the pro IFBB level, yes,
correct.
correct.
Yes, I mean
Mhm.
pro bodybuilding. Yeah,
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah,
real
because there's
bodybuilding.
natural pro bodybuilding. They look great, but they look like they're not on gear. So
Right, right. It's
mhm.
night and day. It's not even close.
Night and day. Yeah.
And the same thing you see with actors where they like in 6 months just put on huge amounts of mass and then normies are like, "Oh, well, you don't know that. You've never seen them, put a needle in their ass or whatever." Like
Uh-huh.
does that drive you crazy this kind of
Well,
like
I'm about to red pill you, motherfucker. Blue pill is when you like just accept bullshit and just keep going, right? Like blue pill is the
yeah,
one where
you accept what you see on the screens as your reality.
you're not getting the mind expanded. So I would actually say that there's a red pilling to the red pilling here, which is that a vast fraction of actors have quite decent genetics,
Sure.
and they just don't lift weights or diet in any organized way because they could give a flying fuck. And they're actually quite open about this in many instances. So when you take someone who's just completely unaccustomed to shit, you don't give them any steroids, you put them on a clean diet,
Sure. Yes.
lots of protein, you make them lift all
Yes.
the time, they can actually get very impressive transformations
Yes.
that everyone thinks of steroids, but not.
Like
However,
hold on,
there's
what's that? Like Brad Pitt in Fight Club. He's just
yeah,
lean.
totally. It was
Yes.
like
That's
150
very
pounds,
natural.
bro.
Yeah.
Like, fuck, right? But like, cigarettes are mostly responsible for that transformation. But like when you get to the Rock's level of size and jackness, like conversations of him being drug free are slightly like probably less likely to be true than otherwise. And so, yeah, there is a thing where pro bodybuilding is lots of steroids, and acting for mega transformations often involves lots of steroids. But I would also say it's not all the time. And one of the things, because I'm like have this I don't know, I'm just kind of a cocksucker, and I like to be an iconoclast every now and again. But to me, I like to red pill the red pillars, because a lot of red pill bullshit is like, nope, that's just another layer of bullshit you told yourself. We're not at base reality yet. And the thing is, in many cases, base reality is some combination of ruthless, politically incorrect, and also nuanced and complicated.
Sure.
And I think
Yeah.
a lot of people who are blue pilled see like very upper layer of everything's
Yes.
great or everything's terrible or however they want to think about it. Red pill is like one nuanced layer deep, but there could be zero to infinity deeper layers of nuance underneath a typical
Yes.
red pill situation. Yeah.
Yes. And
Like
also, go ahead. Sorry.
fuck, really quick, like this is fucked up. I shouldn't be saying this in public, but fuck it, because I'm on your podcast. Why not? Like the red pilling of the typical blue pill version of like the Holocaust and shit like that. Why not? Right. Is that like, well, Hitler was a mean man and he killed these bad people that were really, really good people. And like Jews, for example, and they weren't causing any problems in society. And he was just very mean. And like the red pill Candace Owens type crowd or whatever the fuck is like, well, actually Hitler was pretty great. And the Jews were fucking vile scum. And they were like leeching off the fucking banking system and all this other stuff. I got one level deeper on that in red pilling. Like on almost every objective metric that Hitler qualified the Aryans to be superior, Jews are actually the ultimate white supremacists. Like they're the smartest, the most organized, the least criminally prone. They are the best at banking and finance and all these other things, which are multipliers of wealth in a society. You want as many Jews in your society as possible, and Ashkenazi Jews are like the fucking master race, and not in an objective way, but in every way Hitler said the master race was a master race, short of athletic abilities. He's fucking ridiculous, and Jesse Owens shat on him for that one. But it was just one of those things where like I always like want to meet a white supremacist for real. I don't get to meet too many of them, and they're like, yeah, Jews are scum. I'm like, Jews are better at everything about being white than you, motherfucker. That's that double red pill as an example.
Well,
I shouldn't be saying things like that,
okay.
but
Well,
fuck it.
no. Well, the last chapter of my book, The New Right, goes into this, and I had conversations. I was at Charlottesville. I had conversations with some, and I think what you don't. Let's red pill you.
Yes.
So there's okay. In any population, you're going to have a bell curve. Okay. So as I was doing my research for the book, The New Right, I came upon a Stormfront message board. I'm like, okay, good. Here we go.
The
And
darkness.
they were talking about Murray Rothbard, who is an anarchist, anarcho-capitalist, and it's so Jewish he looks like a drawing from 1940s. And you had the range in that message board where someone's like, I like what he's saying, but since he's Jewish, he's toxic. And the other people are like, this guy's fine. He's an outlier. Like, this is good stuff. And then the middle moderate position in the Nazis was, I like what he's saying, but since he can't be trusted, we should err on the side of caution. So even within that population, you had the range. So this thing that they don't think Jews are scum. They do think they think that Jews are smart, and that's why we're dangerous. It's not at all, and they will acknowledge that the high Ashkenazi IQ. It's not at all denied. It's just very much this is why it's a problem.
Right. So like it's a
This is not where I
problem
thought
if
this episode
you're
would go.
yeah. Yeah, I guess like no, I do appreciate all that nuance. The thing is like a couple of layers of logic deeper kind of falls apart. Like is there something about intelligence and having high intelligence that's more problematic or less problematic on average than having low intelligence?
It's more
And the
problematic because if you have a small population that is using its intelligence for insular purposes at the
what does that
expense,
mean insular purposes? What
so
exactly does
there
that
are,
mean?
I did not, again, this is not
Yeah.
where I thought this episode was going to go. The argument is Jews are very in-group oriented, which is not entirely false, and that they succeed
Some of
at
them are, yeah.
that's true. They
But those are
succeed.
the scummiest ones, like Orthodox people and shit that, no offense, don't produce nearly as much as just like
I don't think they're
libertine
the,
progressive Ashkenazis.
I think that John Stewart's and the Chuck Schumers are much scummier than the Orthodox ones.
Would you just pick like two people you hate, man? What
No, I
about
don't.
like Sam Altman
I don't
and
know Sam Altman.
his Jew? He's the
Okay,
founder of
I don't know
OpenAI.
who he is. But
Oh
my
yeah,
point being,
the birth
their
giver of
argument
AI.
is this is done at the expense of everybody else.
It's just wrong. Like he's wrong on a technical economic analysis. It's always been
Okay,
wrong.
but that's the argument. So it's
Yeah,
not
no, I
just
gotcha. Totally. Which that's
um
my point is like they think they've red pilled themselves into thinking the Jews have a fucking conspiracy. And the reality is like the more Jews you have in your society, the more wealth they produce for you by wealth transfer as a function. A lot of people think like there's something morally wrong with money lending. And that's like literally just the opposite. It's the opposite of the problem.
right. Well, it's also the argument is it's what's fascinating is during the I think it was not in the early days of the Soviet Union when the Russian Civil War was drawing to a close. You had something called the Kronstadt Rebellion, which was outside St. Leningrad, and you had the Civil War's over. Let's have some more liberalization, like we promised. Because you have dictatorship during the Civil War, but now you can have socialism, people have free speech, all this other stuff. So there's a big rebellion, and the Bolsheviks said, "Oh, this rebellion is being fomented by the Jews." And the people who are rebelling were like, "You Bolsheviks are Jews. It's the Jews' fault." So the other argument, which I find funny in this space, is do it's always do the Jews want capitalism or do the Jews want communism? And they go, "Well, it's the same." It's really not. And they can never really figure out which one it is they want, other than, oh, they want Jewish control. Fine, but which direction? Are we going toward liberalism, or are we going toward authoritarian communism?
Yeah, the last thing I'll say on this topic, unless you want to keep going on it, which I'm always down to, is I think at the end of the day, you just start realizing that like approximating by entire ethnic or racial groups is kind of dog shit. Like you meet like hate black people and think they're fucking violent or degenerate or whatever, and then you meet a black person who's cool as fuck and you hang out with them for an hour and you go home and you're like, well, fuck, man, I don't want the Civil War to kill that guy. And it gets really confusing. And so I think at the end of the day, like we can all probably unanimously come up with a set of ways we want humans to behave to each other in society that is like 95% acceptance. Like don't kill, don't rape, don't maim, don't steal, produce wealth, be kind to those around you. That's it. Like, and anyone of any race can join that fucking club, man. It is not an exclusive club. And if one racial group on average tends to be overrepresented in degeneracy, you can just accept the part of the group that isn't, and then tell the other part, like, hey, level up your game and you'll be straight.
Hey, it's Adam Carolla.
And this is Dr. Drew. We're back doing our podcast 3 times a week, talking about current events, health news, and more.
So if you miss us on Loveline, check out the Adam and Dr. Drew show. New episodes Wednesday through Friday, available wherever you find finer podcasts.
Let's get back to the show. I think it's just very I don't know what the word is, whatever negative word you want to put in here, to conflate Bernie Sanders with like Hasidic Jews in Crown Heights. Bernie,
oh my God.
Even on the issue of Israel, Bernie's the most anti-Israel senator in the Senate. The Hasidic Jews are religious, practicing, so on and so forth. And yes, in one set group, they're one thing, but socioeconomically, I think it's an entirely different phenomenon.
Super. And also, like, there's a lot of one thing that's super politically correct, or get canceled for this for sure. There are a variety of critiques against Jews that, like, white supremacists or whatever render that are just statistically true. And there are a variety of ones they render which is totally backwards and wrong. Like, Jews impoverish societies is literally backwards. Jews enrich every society they've ever touched.
Well,
and everyone benefits, including the Jews. They just benefit more because they're the most wealth producing, but they help everyone else. On the other hand, it is absolutely true to say that a large fraction of Hasidic Jews, in the literal sense of between each other, consider everyone else, including you and me, true, blooded Ashkenazi Jews to be subhuman. They really do think that, bro. They really do fucking think that. So when people are like, "Oh, I don't trust those fucking Hasidic Jews," I'm like, I don't think they trust you either, and that's not a great thing, So a lot of critiques rendered against Jews, and people say like, "Oh, you do any kind of critique against Jews," and like, "Oh, this is the beginning of white supremacy," and you're like, "What if it's true though? Shouldn't we be saying true things?" But then like, "Oh, it's just a gateway to other critiques." Like, well, can't we appraise the critiques on their truth value or not?
But I went to yeshiva, and it was a Hasidic yeshiva, and this was not at all, maybe because I was a kid that they didn't get into this, but that wasn't at all the impression I got.
I know people who come from a very, very deeply religious Jewish background who were, I know those people too. I have one specific story where a friend of mine was basically at a dinner where he's like an Ashkenazi Jew, but like was a fucking regular guy, like doesn't believe in God or doesn't follow any of the religious precepts. But he was over at the house of a very well-to-do group of very Orthodox Jews from whom he like worked in some capacity. And he was over for dinner, and he watched the adults of the household tell their like roughly 10-year-old children that like to behave differently and treat differently Jews who are our people and then non-Jews who are other people, like legit racism straight up as a matter of course. And this is something that the average American Jew, like Jerry Seinfeld, Jon Stewart, has never heard in any of their family in their entire lives. Like grandma might be like, "Oh, you brought a shiksa home," and everyone's like, "Shut the fuck up, grandma, like go back to Poland," whatever the fuck. Nobody really, almost no Jews do this, but in various very insular communities in small parts of Israel, small parts of Crown Heights neighborhood in New York. There are absolutely people who, like black Muslims and shit like that in Philadelphia. Most of them are chill as fuck, but some black Muslims legit think they're just better than everyone, and everyone else is not the chosen people, and everyone else needs to get fucked. And that's like a real thing. So when
Well,
white supremacists are like, oh, Jews are insular and stuff, like there is definitely a part of the community that does that. Vast minority, but we can't just be like, oh no, that's nonsense. Like that shit happens.
wait,
It happens to the rest of us.
when you say black Muslims, do you mean Nation of Islam or do you mean Muslims?
Nation of Islam.
Oh yeah. I mean, right. I've just read a biography of Malcolm X, which was absolutely superb, and they're absolutely fascinating. It's just
Super
funny because
fascinating.
yeah, it's they are to Muslims. People don't realize this. They are to Muslims kind of like Mormons are to mainstream Christians.
Yeah.
And it's a very recent phenomenon. And they have
Very-
part of the mythology is that there's this spaceship that's circling the Earth that like it's going, I don't know, it's super fast, and it's called the mothership or the mother wheel or something like that.
I didn't know that. That's dope.
You didn't know about the spaceship?
No, fuck no, dude. I'm a black Muslim tomorrow, bro.
It's amazing. Oh, and you know that
Hell
there's
yeah.
a laboratory where races were created by Yaqub, right?
Dan, you're converting me right now. I love this.
Wait.
I
You
know,
don't know
I
about
know
this?
scarcely little about Nation of Islam compared to what I thought I knew, man. This
Okay,
is like
so the Nation of
revelatory.
Islam, despite the name Islam, has very little to do with the Islam that's been around for hundreds of years, right?
Yeah.
It was founded by a guy, Elijah Muhammad, who apparently was secretly white, but was passing as black. Yeah, this is a whole big, or mixed. This is a whole
Yeah,
big,
step aside, Rachel Dolezal. You little
right.
bitch. You ain't the first to do this shit.
This is a whole big scandal. So part of their mythology is Yaqub is a god, and he created different races of human beings in a laboratory, and whites were created as evil or inferior or something like that. And there's this mothership called the Mother Wheel, and it's like a wheel within wheels, and it's referenced in like one of the visions in the Old Testament. I think Jacob had it or something like that. Anyway, the point is there's this spaceship that's kind of circling the Earth. So that's part. So that is nothing to do with like Muhammad and the Quran. It's this whole other worldview, and that's part of the reason why Malcolm X left the church. He's like, okay, this shit's crazy.
Damn.
And then
Dude, that was really enlightening. Did you say they killed him?
Malcolm X, yeah.
The black Muslims killed him, really? Like a Nation of Islam?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Because well, I mean, same with North Korea. The people who flee are the ones who are the targets. People ask me because I did work in North Korea, aren't you scared they're coming after you? Like, no, they go after their own. Like, they don't care if you are just some outsider who is subhuman to North Koreans. But if you're one of their own, that's when it's a problem.
Yeah, they're coming for you. Yeah, that sucks, man. Damn, I didn't know, man. Malcolm X, I thought the white man killed him. You feel me?
No.
It just feels so much better to say that, though. You know what I'm saying? Like,
you know what I'm saying? I do know what you're saying, but he's a fascinating figure. I think there's so much to learn from him. This book I just read is just absolutely superb. It got a Pulitzer or National Book Award, one of the two. Let's talk a little bit more about well, what else did I want to ask? I mean, here's the other thing. People talk a lot about on the internet about misinformation, disinformation. Is like the fitness space, the space where there's the most like BS out there. It's so hard to separate the wheat from the chaff. No.
I mean, like, I don't have an empirical basis for this, but
sure.
Put it this way: if someone, if like some, 2028's super smartest AI had parsed almost everything in the internet and is embodied in robotics, talking to people all the time, and it told me like, yeah, the fitness industry is pretty damn biased and off course for the most part, I would believe it 100%. That's actually the thing is like, there used to be a thing, and it still is to some regards, of people in the evidence-based fitness industry kind of quarreling with each other, and it's fun, it's good for clicks and all that shit, but some of the beef gets like pretty legit, where people are like, really don't like each other, like you need to stop spreading misinformation in the space. And what I always like to say is, listen, in the evidence-based fitness industry, we all need to ally together, because we are like 10% maybe of the entire fitness industry, and the rest is just all fucking nonsense, and we need to like really support each other. Like a nuanced, very calmly held disagreement on technical data is one thing, but like just making shit up in the ether to profit and rip people off and fuck them in the ass, even if you just genuinely believe you're saying the right thing, is like the big elephant enemy in the room. And so it's absolutely true that in my experience, at least, the fitness industry is like, has a lot left to be desired. And there's a good bit of wheat, but a lot of chaff, and unfortunately quite hard to tell for people who have no understanding of farming or the English language by this analogy of what is what. That's kind of, to me, was one of the main reasons we started RP. And one other thing that still kind of bites me in the ass is I really, really feel for a person who is relatively smart, relatively motivated, ready to get their fitness on, and they just like go to the internet and they're like, I want to get fit, and they just get bombarded with fucking dog shit. Now, this is much better now that we have GPTs and AIs, because like Gemini, Claude, ChatGPT, they'll tell you like way, way better advice on average than just Googling random things.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
Oh my God, by a long shot. But no, they still make a lot of mistakes because
Sure.
they're trained on the same data that is just had a lot of bullshit in it. Like they read like almost every article from bodybuilding.com, essentially, or it's been, distilled. And then so like a lot of the stuff they say, I talk to ChatGPT a lot. So asking some fitness stuff on occasion, and it'll say stuff. And I'm like, how do you know that that's true? And how does it correlate with that? And it goes, yeah, good point. That actually doesn't make any sense.
Oh,
So yeah,
wow.
because it can do logical reasoning. And if you say these two things are in opposition, you said both of them to me. It's like, that's true. My training data kind of needs updating.
Holy
And
crap,
because
that's
it was
scary.
trained.
Okay.
Oh
Wow,
yeah,
okay.
no, it's great. It would be scary if it just said wrong things all the fucking time.
Right.
But and so it's awesome. But we're getting much better. But it pains my heart to have like regular people who are just trying to do their goddamn best. Like here's the thing: if you're a regular person trying to do your best, you show up to Best Buy, you just want a laptop that's like, under $1,000 and it does these things and it has this, graphics accelerator for you to play games. Like there's a high probability you're going to leave with like something that functionally works, is a really good ROI. And it might not be like the best, like some fucking computer nerd could be like, well, technically you should have gone for the Acer version of this computer, blah, blah, blah. And, IBM does great work, but this is more for corporate settings. You can get nuanced critiques, but like pretty much you're going to get taken care of really well. Whereas in the fitness space, if you walk in and hire a random personal trainer, I mean, it's everything between, man, this guy's fucking brilliant, is going to hook you up, all the way to like, oh my God, like this person, how does this person know how to read? Like, does this person have logical faculties? Who ties their shoes for them in the morning? That level of idiocy, and not even idiocy on raw IQ terms, but just massive misinformation. And maybe the worst thing is the presumption that your misinformation is a shibboleth that is factually true. Like people will still say things like, oh, more muscle means you have a faster metabolism. Nope. Nutrient timing, like if you eat 6 meals a day,
Hold on, because you triggered me.
yeah,
Doesn't more
I got all
muscle
kinds of
mass
shit.
mean you're burning more calories just sitting there? Am I incorrect?
Yes, you're correct by a margin that's barely measurable. So in the real world, it matters almost not at all. Like it just will never make any
Wait,
practical
hold on.
difference in your weight
Maybe I'm
loss
not.
journey.
Maybe my brain's pushing back, so maybe I want to make sure I'm understanding it.
Please.
If I'm sitting here at 150 and I'm sitting here at 200, don't I need more calories to maintain my weight at 200?
Yep, but if it was 50 pounds more muscle or 50 pounds more fat, it would
Oh,
make
I'm sorry.
almost no
Yeah.
difference.
Right. Oh, I'm sorry. I misunderstood. Yeah,
Yes.
it's just the weight that's the
Yes.
number. It doesn't matter the
Yes,
blood sugar or
correct.
fat. Right. Okay.
Correct. So sometimes people will be like, oh, like I used to weigh 200, but now that I'm building muscle, I can eat more
Oh,
because
no.
I
Okay.
burn all this muscle or burn all this energy. And that's just not, but here's the thing, that's not true, right? Because you've been in the space for a little bit, you're a fucking
Right.
sharp guy. Like a huge fraction of people think it's the opposite. It's one of these things that one of the things that fascinates me in kind of almost every field, and this goes a little bit with the red pill, blue pill thing, is what like Douglas Murray has referred to as like mass delusion. Like almost everyone thinks a thing is this.
Yeah.
And they've heard it everywhere that it's this. It has
Yeah.
never been that. And it's just completely, it sounds like when you say that, oh no, well, that's actually not true. You sound like a cynical iconoclast that's like, oh, well, okay, Mike has to have his own bullshit perspective. Good job. You're disagreeable. No, like it's literally not the case. You talk to research scientists and they go, yeah, it's not the case. Let me give you another big one. It is not true to say that we are being mass poisoned by junk food or toxins in the United States. It is not true to say that red dye and yellow six or whatever the fuck are bad for you in any way that makes a huge grand scheme of difference in the United States. And fundamentally, the reason that many people are struggling with their health is they overconsume junk food that's convenient and cheap, and they do it all the time. And they get super fucking fat. So that whole RFK bullshit, which I have tons of respect for what he's trying to do, but like they're making sure that we don't have artificial shit in our food is just the fucking biggest red herring in the world. And so when you tell people that, they're like, dude, that can't possibly be true. And you just like talk to professional toxicologists whose job it is to study these things and improve them. And they're just going to tell you things that you're like, oh, holy fucking shit. Like they're like, yeah, like honestly, like these dyes and stuff have been studied into absurdity. And to be completely honest, like if you eat like a new food that just emerged from the rainforest, like there's at face value, higher probability that'll fuck you up than red dye 40, because we have zero research on that food and we have all the research in the world on this. And we've just studied it back to front. Here's another one. Pesticides are not a serious concern to almost any consumers of food in the United States or in Europe. They're just not. Like pesticides are not fucking killing you. They're not. You're not the first person to think about this. Massive regulatory bodies and fields of toxicologists have already solved the problem, but but everyone knows that these are the things that are causing bad stuff. And here's another big problem. This myth isn't just harmless. People will be like, okay, so like I need to eat healthy, right? So I need like organic food, right? No, organic is a total fucking scam. It's total fucking bullshit front to back. And when you tell people that, they lose faith in like all of their knowledge, quite understandably. They're like, what else do I know, quote unquote, that's not
You just
true?
red pilled them. Yeah.
You just red pill the fuck out of them. And then luckily the modern AIs are really good about getting up to speed on truth. They're not perfect yet. They're on their way. But, for a long time, it was really fucking the dark ages. And to a large extent, it still is.
You mentioned RFK, and this is something I know we got to head out, but this is something I really want you to discuss because you have so much expertise on this subject. This is something that's still taboo, and I think it's something that should be discussed more often, and people should look into it more. Can you talk about the benefits of TRT, when people should start looking into it, whether it's a mistake, and so on and so forth? Because this is I'm sure you have a lot to say on this subject.
Yeah, that's a great question. So TRT requires two things to be true for you to be a candidate for it. One is you have to have levels of testosterone or free testosterone as administered by test with a doctor that are on the lower end of the range or below the cutoff lower end of the range. And that's part one. Part two is you have to have at least part and hopefully a majority and ideally a super majority of an agglomeration of symptoms of actual low testosterone. So for example, some people have very low testosterone levels, but their cells are so sensitive to testosterone that you're like, all right, your test came back, you have low T. Like, okay, so how do you feel? They're like, sex drive is amazing. My veins are everywhere. I'm growing muscle all the time. I love my life. I sleep really well. And it's like, okay, shut the fuck up and get out of my office. What do you need? Like, you're going to replace already something that functions with a replacement level of that, and then like inject yourself all the time and take stupid pills and have to declare your fucking, when you travel, you have to declare to the Japanese government that these pills aren't you smuggling it. It's like actually prescription. They can't read English, the whole fucking thing. And so you just don't need that bullshit. And so if your test levels are low, but you have none of the symptoms or almost none, it's another thing. Here's another problem people do. They'll look at the symptoms and they'll find one and they're like, boom, that's it. They're like, low sex drive. And like, okay, I need TRT. Like, well, hold on a sec. What else do you have? And there's like 6 or 7 other things with TRT that are really common symptoms. And if you have none of the other ones, like, well, what's up with low sex drive? Could it be testosterone mediated? Yes, that's definitely an exploratory function. But another thing is it could just be like, like you and your girl just haven't been communicating well. And you're like, look, like I realize, and I know, Stacy, this sounds weird for me to say to you at this point in a 3-year relationship. I only get off if you're violently stabbing my nuts with your stiletto heel. And then once you get that cleared, the doctor's like, hey, TRT, you're like, actually, my sex drive's through the roof. We got it sorted. And then you start telling the doctor about your sexual practices. He's like, dude, HIPAA doesn't cover this. Get the fuck out of my office. So if you have a lot of symptoms of low testosterone, and you can go to a doctor and talk about them, or you could just talk to ChatGPT about what they are. And if you have measurably low testosterone, TRT is an amazing thing that can like solve a fuckload of your problems all at the same time. But if you have neither the symptoms nor the low levels, or just one or two of the other, then it's a more nuanced conversation, and you have to trade it off against the downsides of like injecting yourself regularly, putting on a fucking gel. You put on a gel, you play with your kids get the gel on them, all kinds of fucked up shit happens. Where you have to take pills.
That happens?
Yeah. The gel, like you're not supposed to touch other people with your arm for like 9 hours or some shit. Yeah. You put the gel and you fucking fuck your wife, and all of a sudden, halfway through the sex, she's like, more. You're like, but then you're kind of turned on. What does that mean? Am I gay? Is that good? It's 2024. I guess that's good.
What happened to your clit?
And then you love it. Then like, oh my God, am I gay? Yeah, the whole thing.
Wait, so is your opinion that? But I that's a very nuanced perspective. But to your point, do you think that this taboo around this subject is costly? Is it appropriate? What are your thoughts on that?
So I'm roughly of the opinion that every taboo is costly and inappropriate because taboo is fucking stupid. Taboo is great for like children, and because they can't have the nuance to get traction on complex topics. So I think like, yeah, taboo is stupid, but at the same time, we shouldn't go from the taboo all the way to like everyone should be on TRT, make America juice to the gills again. So my opinion on this is that like, yeah, the taboo is dumb, and that if you are a person who is in their late 30s, especially, although this can apply to any time in life, and you are just like, and I'm not even going to say these symptoms because it's as easy as you go to Gemini, Claude, ChatGPT, these are all free. Just type in like, can you tell me the top 5 or 10 symptoms experientially of low testosterone? And they just go, and you can ask them questions back and forth. It's great. They'll tell you all these things. And if you have like more than a handful, holy shit, then it's time to go talk to your doctor. You telling me how these symptoms, almost any good doctor is going to be like, let's get the test. Let's test for your test. And if he's like, no, you're fine, just get a new doctor. Because then he was trained in the 1950s and he thinks all steroids are, terrible.
Do you know who Jason Ponton is? I think that's his name.
I don't think
there's this ad for like test, like, and this guy is like jacked to the gills, like Olympia level. And the ad is some testosterone test at home. And it's just like, oh, I learned about my testosterone from this. And it's just and he's in his underwear. It's just this insane thing. And I commented on this ad on my Insta, and he somehow found it. And he was just commented on it. I'm just like, but I feel like there's so much disingenuousness out there about people who are like RFK is obviously on TRT. He's like 70 and in
Yeah,
very
he
good
says
shape.
he is. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, he's admitted it.
Yeah, oh, tons. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
It's on
Okay.
video. Yeah.
Okay. That's very healthy. I just feel like because needles are involved for a lot of people, like in their head, this is just being adjacent to being a junkie. And
Yeah.
it's not. And the thing is, they're comfortable with biological females doing it, but somehow if it's biological males, like, oh my God, that's crazy.
Yeah, that's been a big trip to see people on the political left be like, yeah, you should be able to give like 10-year-olds testosterone. But if a 42-year-old man's dick doesn't work anymore and he's super fucking depressed and he can't sleep and his test is like at subclinical levels, then like, well, that's okay. Like, we don't want a nation of steroid addicts. You're like, okay, we seem to have reasoned our way into a nonsense.
Mike, we're running out of time. What has been your favorite part of this interview?
The leaving and fucking never talking to you again part. That's my favorite because holy shit, this was fucking awful. It's easily my least favorite interview of all time.
You are welcome.
Pluto TV is a place for movie fans like me.
And TV fans like me.
They've got something for everyone, and it's free.
I love free, and I love Jersey Shore.
For me, it's The Godfather.
SpongeBob SquarePants, I am Patrick. Patrick is me.
Oh, Forrest Gump, come on.
Criminal Minds, solving crime after bedtime.
Whatever you love to watch, Pluto TV makes it easy with thousands of free movies and shows.
Pluto TV, stream now, pay never.